evening, and welcome to Wavelength, the show where we talk to local people about local issues in hope of getting everybody a little bit more on the same wavelength. So my show tonight, by the way, I'm Ian Butler, the host. I should probably mention that as well. So my guest tonight is John Keener, who was the mayor of Pacifica at least 1 year, just one year. And of course was a city council member for 4 years. And now he's a private citizen, and he's going to talk about all the fun stuff he's doing right now. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on.
As one of the members, one of the people in City Hall refers to me now as Citizen Keener.
Citizen Keener.
Yes.
I like that one. I'm going to call you that from now on.
All right.
Citizen Keener. Yeah, and as we get started, I just want to say I appreciate all you did as a city council member. I know it was not an easy 4 years.
Yeah.
And you had to kind of face some nastiness, but you took it all in stride, and I'm happy to see you coming out the other side here with some great new things going on in your life right now.
Yeah.
So let's talk about those things.
All right.
Yeah. So I'll let you decide. What are you most excited about right now?
Let's start with Peninsula Clean Energy.
Peninsula Clean Energy, yes.
Yeah. So I was a founding board member of Peninsula Clean Energy by virtue of my being on the city council. It's a JPA, Joint Powers Authority, of all 20 cities in the county, and each city gets to appoint a council member to the board, and I was it.
I see.
After I lost my seat in the election, the board made a special seat for me. I'm an emeritus director.
Okay.
And so I really appreciate that, because I don't get to vote, but it doesn't matter. I have a little bit of influence, but mostly I get to keep up with what they're doing, and what they're doing is just amazing. I mean, your last guest, Sally Lieber, talked about clean energy and how California is leading the country and maybe the world.
Yeah.
San Mateo County may be leading California.
Really?
Because
of Peninsula.
Because of Peninsula Clean Energy. Because of PCE. We have 90% greenhouse gas free electricity.
Now, fill me in here. I'm a little vague on this. Are we all using Peninsula Clean Energy? Is that what we're all getting from our electricity from now in the county?
Just about all of us.
Okay.
There's maybe 2% opt-outs that
so
people have opted
out. Our electricity
to
that we get is 90% clean energy.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes, and it's 50% renewable, and that's going up. And it'll be 100% renewable by 2025.
Really? We're going to
Yes.
have 100% renewable energy here in our county. That's incredible.
That's right.
So that's like the future is here.
Yes.
We're doing it.
With respect to electricity?
Yeah.
Yes,
right,
it is. And, that's just terrific. And, I'm proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I know in your own life you are using very little non-renewable power. You plug your car in, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I tell people that are interested in what they can do about climate change is the first thing they can do is buy an electric car. Because in San Mateo County, the electricity is already clean.
Right.
Okay.
So if we're getting electricity from coal plants, it's not really that much of an improvement. But if it's clean, like here, then it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Then the next step is to get an electric car.
Right. I see.
Yeah. And we're just not adopting them as fast as I would like, or as fast as anybody thinks we need, even though California is by far the leader in the country and one of the world leaders. But yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. I would like to mention that in my job, I trim trees by day. I now have electric chainsaw, an electric blower, electric
Wow.
shears. I do have one gas chainsaw for the real big jobs, but basically 99% of my jobs, I never have to use gas-powered tool anymore.
And
It's a great feeling. It really is.
if you plug in,
Yeah.
in San Mateo County,
It's clean.
all that energy is clean.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really good to know. I feel even better about using them now that I realize it's all clean, Okay, now part of the Peninsula Clean Energy, what you're working towards is a public option for PG&E, right? Can you
Yeah.
explain that?
Yeah. So PG&E is going through a bankruptcy right now, and the two groups that are fighting over, the remains of PG&E are both anchored by hedge funds, and you just know that when PG&E is reformed, if it's got these hedge funds as leaders, they're going to wring out the last little bit of juice that they can from the company and leave us even worse off.
Right. 'Cause they don't care about anything except money. So
Right. And it's surprising to me that they even care about PG&E, but I think it's probably because of the guaranteed return that PG&E has.
The ratepayers have no choice.
Right,
Yeah.
right. The PUC guarantees the return. But there is a third option. The mayor of San Jose, Sam Liccardo, is spearheading this group to have the ratepayers own PG&E. And the ratepayers, that company would have a financial advantage over either the two hedge fund options. Probably about 10 or 20% of the financial ability. So they wouldn't have to pay any dividends and that sort of thing, and they wouldn't owe federal taxes because they would be a public corporation, and the shareholders would be the ratepayers, right?
Right. So instead of making a profit for some investors, any profits just go back into keeping the rates down, basically.
Yeah, and
20% cheaper.
yes, and this is terribly important. And one reason it's so important is because of all the fires that PG&E have driven PG&E into bankruptcy. The Sierra Club has said that those fires have released an amount of CO2, that causes the greenhouse gas that causes climate change. That amount of CO2 is released every year is equal to the amount of renewable energy generated in California, and that's quite a lot of energy.
So in other words, that's negating all the steps that we've made.
Yeah, and obviously we still don't want to give up our renewable energy. It would be even worse without it. But
we also want to not cause these fires that negate
definitely,
all that.
Definitely. And so the public corporation would use its extra money, the 10 or 20% or whatever it is, to plow into safety improvements, real safety improvements. Yes.
Right, undergrounding the wires when possible,
or just insulating them, building new transmission towers. Some of those transmission towers are 100 years old.
Really?
Yeah, I mean PG&E is the oldest power company in the country.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is increasingly a transmission and distribution only company. It's not completely out of generation yet, but it is, probably 50%.
So they're the
gone.
grid, basically.
Yeah. Probably 50% of their business now has disappeared. It's gone to, these companies called CCAs, like Peninsula Clean Energy, all along the coast and the interior of the state.
Well, that's very interesting. Stuff that people don't really know about. So I'm glad to be learning about this stuff. Okay, so that's I guess the lion's share of your effort right now is working on the Peninsula Clean Energy and these programs. And that's great that your stint as a city council member has led to this.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, and just fortuitous.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, and I noticed that you're not just talking the talk; you're walking the walk. This has been John's only water bottle. How long have you used this one for?
Oh, 6 or 7 years.
6 or 7 years. I lose that many. Lose one about every month or so. So that's pretty good.
Every single council meeting, every meeting that I had to go to for the city. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd carry this along.
That's great. And you got your electric car. You're doing it. So let's talk about some of the other stuff that you're working on these days. You got. I know you're working with the San Pedro Creek Watershed Coalition.
Yeah.
Tell about that.
Yeah. So I started working with them when they sort of came back to life about a year before I left council. And I joined them unofficially then, and just hung around at board meetings basically.
Yeah.
And they're a group that, as you probably know, but maybe a lot of your viewers don't know,
right?
That protects the creek. San Pedro Creek runs, about 4 or 5 miles through. Starting in San Pedro Valley Park.
Right. That's where they had the pristine part of it, back in the park.
The pristine part is back there, and then through Lindemar, and somewhat less pristine in Lindemar.
Yeah, it's been through some stuff.
It is the city storm sewer,
right,
as it goes through Lindemar and then out to the ocean. And the creek has, generally failing grades for bacterial contamination, as does the Lindemar Bay that it flows into.
Yeah, it's got some real problems.
Yeah, and it's probably due, to our ancient sewer system in part, and probably also due to pet poop.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
I know they did some DNA testing on that and to see what kind of animals it was coming from. It's a lot of sources. It's not a real simple solution, but a lot of
that was the early days of that kind of testing, and it's not terribly reliable. We're hoping in the next year or two to do something that's a little more definitive now that technology has.
I think they'd invented that
advanced.
technique for that test. That was the first time it had ever been done.
Really?
Yeah. That's what I was told at the time.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So I know that creek has a few other problems to deal with, like the fish can't get through some areas.
Yeah. It's home to the only steelhead run between the Golden Gate and Half Moon Bay, and steelhead. Everybody loves them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
delicious.
you're not allowed to fish for them. No fishing.
I do see them right by my house once in a while. It's been a few years now.
Yeah, and they are in the creek.
Yeah.
Yes, but yeah, there are a few barriers that make it more challenging. One of them is right near your house, the Adobe Drive Bridge.
Right.
Just downstream of that, there's maybe a 2 or 3 feet and probably about a 3 feet drop, and the fish have to swim up and then jump, and they can make that only in fairly high water.
Right.
But
if it gets too high, then they can't even swim upstream at all. It can get really crazy. So it has to be just right.
Yeah. Those kind of conditions don't last too long, but when we would really like to know what happens during those conditions, whether fish get washed out to sea again, or
Yeah, I know. If they
so
get
on.
trapped in that, it's just, yeah. So I guess one of the problems, right, is that so much of it has been paved and
Yes.
undergrounded that
Yeah.
when the rain comes, it just all comes raw all at once. It doesn't naturally seep a little at a time.
That's right.
So you get these huge water volumes that are completely unsustainable for the fish. I can't even imagine what it's like for them in there. you
Yeah.
know?
It's hard for me to imagine anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah, and along with that is what they call the first flush. So the first rain of the season washes off all the road oils and
The gunky
the
stuff, yeah.
stuff that's been on your roof and
Yep.
sidewalks and yards and so on. All of that stuff that's been saved up over the summer gets washed into the creek. And we would really like to get some sampling on that, not the bacteriological sampling we're getting, and we know what the situation is. It's pretty bad. And,
Right, but there's all those other elements in there
yeah,
too.
and we have finally gotten some figures on that, courtesy of a teacher in San Jose at a San Jose high school, and some of her students. And
Awesome.
she was up, this month in the first flush. I think it was a couple days before Thanksgiving, and she hit it just right. And so we'll finally have some idea of how much dissolved oxygen and turbidity and nitrogen and so on like that is in
Just
the
find out just
creek
how
water.
habitable it is, the water quality is for fish to have to
For
exist
that,
in.
for that, day or two
Mm-hmm.
that it's washing off the first flush, and yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it could be enough to damage their health permanently, just being out there for a day in that stuff.
yeah. Well, we wonder.
Yeah. And I understand you're also now a site captain for the Beach Coalition cleanups
Yes.
related to that. Yes.
In San Pedro Creek, it's the section alongside the trail on San Pedro Terrace. That is near the convalescent
Right, yeah,
home, and between that and Lindemar and Highway 1.
Yeah.
And yes, I did the first cleanup last weekend, and it was raining, so I had to cancel that for everybody else who was coming. But it didn't look like it was raining too hard, so I thought, oh well, I'll go out there and see what I see. And I got through two and a half hours of it, and picked up an awful lot of stuff.
Yeah, I know how it can collect in there.
Yeah.
I've seen sometimes like plastic bottles will all just be in one spot. It'd be like a whole collection. They have a way of sorting themselves.
Yeah. I have heard that that once we went to the single stream recycling, that decreased markedly. And what
right, I'm aware of that. Yeah, for the Secret
saw,
Waterfalls case as well, where I
really
clean it.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and yeah, I certainly collected some water bottles, but not just like
Cool.
Dozens in one place or anything like that.
Well, when you do the next one of those, let me know.
I will.
Do you have one scheduled right now we could tell the folks about?
It's the first Saturday of the month.
Oh, every first Saturday you're going to do
Yeah,
that now.
at 9 o'clock, meet at the Convalescent Center.
Awesome. All right, I will be there.
All right.
I don't know, the ones I'm free for. 'Cause
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
And that's actually the closest cleanup to my house. Yeah. So that's really great to see that. And I see that you're also...
That's, of course, sponsored by the Pacific Beach Coalition.
Yes, Pacific, not Pacifica anymore.
Yes.
They've gone ocean-wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And by the way, I'm now on the board for them now, so I got to learn to use the right name for them. Yeah. Okay, so let's see what else you're doing. You're also now on the Pacifica Land Trust.
Yeah, I'm on the board for them. They are currently engaged in restoring the headlands, and most of the restoration is done, but there's still a little bit left.
Mm-hmm.
And I was up there last weekend also,
Mm-hmm.
doing a little restoration work on.
Right, they have
one
their
of the
monthly
yeah,
volunteer days there.
yeah, and a few really stubborn bare spots left that they're
Mhm.
trying to plant some grass and get that going.
That's a nice place to work, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
It's for, if you're going to do volunteer work, do it at a
Yeah.
place with a view.
Yeah.
I find.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like volunteering at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that they are involved in is the coastal trail from Ace Hardware up to the headlands.
Mm-hmm.
And so the city bought a couple pieces of land over the last 5-6 years, and with the intention of building a trail. But the cost was really ridiculous even then. It was
Right.
like $5 million or something like that. The problem was they were envisioning a trail that was really high grade, like the one going up from Rockaway Beach up to
Right.
the heights between Rockaway and Lindemar. Just all out, and it would leave virtually no trees at all on that slope, and not very desirable. So the Coastal Conservancy, which is one of the landowners up in the headlands,
Mm-hmm.
is sponsoring a group to investigate what kind of trail to put on that slope going up there.
Mhm.
And so the Land Trust is heavily involved in that also.
I see. Well, I look forward to the day that trail is finished. That'll be an amazing change to
Yeah.
our area here. To be able to go there without having to navigate the traffic and the craziness,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. So I'm glad to see
And
you.
by the way,
Mhm.
you can hike up there now.
Yeah.
There's sort of a social trail leaving
Mhm.
from Ace Hardware, so
Oh,
you can
you
hike
can.
up. You can hike up to the headlands right now. It's just
You have to know where the secret start is.
Yeah.
Where it's at, huh?
yeah,
Okay.
it's by Ace Hardware.
By Ace Hardware. Okay, well, that's good to know. Well, we're running out of time here. I know you want to also talk about your most passionate thing, which is climate change, which of course relates to Peninsula Clean Energy. But that seems to be, that's to you the most important issue
It is.
of all.
It is, and I fortunately I got in a little bit about it
Yeah.
with the Peninsula Clean
Sure.
Energy
Yeah.
and the fires and so on and so forth. And
Yeah.
those are the most important things that we have to think about.
Mhm.
We often in Pacifica get pegged as the poster child for sea level rise, and we're not technically so much at mercy of the sea level rising, but we have really crummy bluffs. They just
That's true.
erode,
Yeah.
at the drop of a hat,
Yeah.
and that's what we're fighting now.
So if you have like little extra storm action, it knocks those bluffs over all the faster, even the
Yeah.
ocean's a little taller.
Yeah.
And so.
But I think that these other consequences of CO2 elevation, like the fires,
Yeah.
the droughts, et cetera, will probably hit us before real sea level rise
Uh-huh.
hits us.
Okay. Wow. And you have a quote I think you like to refer to. You want to leave. What is it you like to say about climate change?
Yeah. What kind of world are we leaving our grandkids?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have grandkids?
No, virtual grandkids. Virtual grandkids.
No, I hear you. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
you don't have to
but-
have your own grandkids to know that
Yeah.
they need to have a planet to live on.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we're getting low on time, but I do want to just spend a last 2 minutes here just talking about, I think that you served in the city council honorably. I think you did exactly what you felt was the right thing to do in your heart. You never had any agenda. You didn't take money from anybody. No. You're just doing what you think is the right thing to do. And unfortunately, a lot of people, some moneyed interests, took umbrage with that. And you in that last election, you had to take some pretty serious attacks.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, I did.
Yeah. And I just want to say I can't imagine what it was like for you and your wife to have to go through that. I think that it was still a low point in the history of Pacifica politics. And I think that unfortunately enough people were fooled by these lying flyers that arrived in the mail. You know, I think it's a tragic thing that happened. But it seems like you've moved on.
I have.
You're on your next thing in your life here, you know.
I am, and yeah, I'm, you know, when you're on city council and especially when you're mayor, you know, at least I would wake up in the middle of the night and worry about things that are equivalent of potholes, you know.
Yeah, try how to fix little things.
Yeah. And now I don't do that, and I'm working on things that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
And climate change is, of course, number one.
Great. Well, looks like our time is up, John. So thanks again for being on Wavelength. I really appreciate all you've done for the community. Just keep doing what you're doing. I'm really happy to have you around here. I think that our community is very fortunate to have you.
Thank you, Ian.
Yeah. All right, and I want to say thank you for watching Wavelength. I want to thank Luigi's Pizza for feeding the crew, and I want to thank you for watching us. We're not against them, we're for them. Good night. Well done.
Yeah, good.
Have to get in my little proselytizing at the end.